So what's the hook to watch this video? Community. It's the future. It's actually also been a big part of the past of making sure that not only we find out what people need as business owners, but what people want as business people inside our communities. So Tom Ross, in my humble view, is one of the best experts on community. I honestly, personally have been asking him questions for the last year, and he's never not known what to do. I'm personally building a community on Discord, so if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can join that community. We call it Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. Tom is one of those entrepreneurs helping this evening. You can join the community down below. Tom himself also has a community of people wanting to learn about communities. So if you want to join that, and I'm a member of his community group, then please also click the links below. We will put the links there to Tom's community group, which honestly, I think it's the reason our community is working. So I'd strongly recommend you jump on to Tom's community. So if you have any questions about business, we will help you. You can visit thepurposefulproject.com or any of the links below that give you content around mentorship, information around how some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs have managed to do what they're doing. So if you need any help around business, then please do ask us. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Tom to the stage, I guess, to whatever channel you're watching this on. And maybe, Tom, we could kick off by the first minute. You could just explain to people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me, Simon. It's an honor, as ever, an incredibly kind intro. Very quickly, because I just want to be here and help people, to be honest. So very quick backstory. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always loved community. Built communities and built online businesses from a very young age. And currently I'm lucky enough to be the CEO and founder at Design Cuts, a community of over 800,000 creatives. And I'm so passionate about it that, as you say, I teach community in my spare time. I have a community teaching community. I've written a book about community. And I just live and breathe it. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you today and try and help as many people as we can.
Well, thanks, Tom, for giving up your time. So one of the questions we had come in, people want to understand what is a successful community and how do you build one from scratch?
Yeah, I think really there is no one size fits all. And I get a lot of questions about community, but the truth is the answer will be completely different based on your situation and your goals and so on. So for some people, they want to do a free community that they turn into a global movement, and impact is the real driving force for them, such as in your case, Simon. For other people, maybe they're running a paid community, and success for them looks like being able to, pay their bills and be a little bit more financially comfortable in life. And then, of course, there's overlapping ones where, maybe some people want to earn a living from their community, but also have a tremendous impact and connect with others and broaden their network. So there's all kinds of benefits. But I think really it varies wildly, person to person, business to business, organization to organization. And then, of course, it's all about the members as well. So, how do you help your members achieve success? What does that look like? And I think member success is, really the thing to hold up when we think about the value of our communities. Because, like I say, there's a lot of kind of tangible values of community, but I think helping members reach their definition of success, the reason they're in the community in the first place, that kind of has to be number one, right? So by being part of your community, members go from being at point A to point B. What is that transformation? How many of your members are you helping to achieve that? I think that's a really good place to kind of start focusing on. And something I talk about all the time is you need to get the balance of the two right. Because I think you've got one camp of people where they're just so focused on driving value and success for their members, they actually neglect themselves. Maybe they're burning out. Maybe they're not able to financially support their mission. It's unsustainable for all kinds of reasons. And then on the flip side, you get people that are, the contrast to that. And they're kind of extorting money out of their community. They're not really bringing any value. They've got super high churn rates. So I think the two need to operate in equilibrium, where you as the community team or leader are getting sufficient value, fulfillment, and benefit. and the members are equally getting sufficient value and reaching success and whatnot. When you can balance those two things, then a community really has longevity. When they're out of balance, then you're going to run into trouble eventually. As for how to start a community, that's a whole topic in itself. So without giving you a 30-minute answer, I think allocate more time to the foundational work. So this is things like defining your value proposition, validating the concept on people and testing it, starting with a minimal viable community. So starting small, rolling it out to an initial group of members instead of trying to open the floodgates, seeding a fantastic culture early on. All of this foundational work is so crucial, because what most people do is they swing the gates open, they get as many members in as possible, they haven't properly thought through what success looks like for the members or the community, they haven't really got a plan, and then it ends up being a big jumbled, unclear mess, and invariably fails.
It's a great tip. So for the 21 people presently on Discord listening, I'd be really interested at the end of this download from Tom what you want to get out of this community. So I'd love to ask a few of you to come and tell us in a minute, and I'd love to hear Tom's feedback on your needs too.
And super quick, if I may, Simon, on that, we with my company, we also have a community, of course. We recently surveyed our members, and that was one of the questions that we asked them. And thankfully, people were very aligned in their answers. But I think often there's a problem if you ask that question at scale and you get 100 completely different answers. That's maybe an indication that you haven't kind of properly defined the value prop for your community.
Yeah, so interesting. And so there's a lot of platforms out there that people can use, from, again, I guess platforms like Circle, which I know you use, to Discord, of course, the platform my company is presently using. Of course, people have Facebook groups and so on and so forth. Are there any, rules of thumb or insights on what platform works best for what?
Yeah, there are. And again, it's definitely not one size fits all. I get this question probably more than any other, which community platform is best for me? And I can never turn around and just always recommend the same platform. It's going to vary based on your needs. So I actually have a 5-point checklist, which I think everyone should kind of hopefully go by. Number 1, where do your ideal members already spend their time? Because if you're meeting them where they're at, there's going to be far less friction. I.e., if you're in the NFT space and everyone in that world seems to be using Discord, it maybe makes sense to start a Discord community because they're going to be able to jump over much easier than if you try and force and shoehorn them into a platform that they're more resistant to. Number 2, budget. What's your budget? Because I might recommend Circle for a forum because I love it, but it costs me $79 a month. So if someone has zero budget, that's not going to be a suitable fit for them. Otherwise, if you have an enormous budget, maybe you can look at even more of an enterprise solution and so on. Number 3, what kind of community do you actually run or want to run? So is it asynchronous, something more like a forum? Is it synchronous, something that's more real-time chat-based? Is it more events-based? Again, all of these key decisions of what you actually want to achieve and do with this community are vital in terms of picking a platform. Number 4 is how big is your community and how big do you want it to be? Because if you're running an asynchronous forum, for example, that's going to be quite a tough sell if you're looking to have, a mastermind group with only 10 people in it, and that's kind of your community, because they're going to be bouncing around and it's going to feel like a bit of a ghost town in a forum setup. So maybe something more asynchronous would be appropriate for that. And then number 5 is, do you need to tie into wider platforms or offerings? What's your wider tech stack look like? So are you having to kind of fit it into an existing company or platform that you run? Are you having to tie events in different ways? It's looking at the kind of wider pieces, because often community doesn't sit in isolation. It actually has to fit into an existing framework.
Very good advice. This is actually a question I'm having as you're saying this is, do you think it's a good strategy to have multiple communities? So for example, right now I'm live on Instagram and TikTok giving information from you to my community, but of course I've got my Discord community which will do the Q&A in afterwards. But do you think that's a good strategy or not? I mean, I'm just wondering.
I think it's a good strategy in terms of, I hate to use the term, but almost like funneling awareness. if you will, and offering different things. So, for example, I have my free communities, which reach a bigger number of people, raise awareness, and let me help at scale, often if people can't afford it and so on. My closed community is a paid community, so that's on a different platform. It's gated off, and obviously there's a membership fee. And I think that's completely normal and fine. What I don't like doing is when things are kind of on the same level and they're really scattered and disparate. So this is why I love the platform Circle so much. We use it with my company, and historically we'd be using Zoom for certain hangouts, Crowdcast for webinars over here, a different thing for scheduling and posting events, a different place for chat. And it was really difficult for my team to kind of maintain all those moving parts, and it was confusing for our community. And literally we would like go live on Crowdcast and then say, hey, guys, let's continue the conversation. Now you have to jump over here and have all this friction and go to a different platform. And I think that's inherently problematic. So wherever possible, I do quite like consolidation. And due to new features on Circle, most of what I just described can now happen on one roof. You can go live, you can then chat about it afterwards, continue the conversation, host events. And I think that's a really powerful and really beautiful thing. But absolutely, in terms of being on multiple social platforms to extend your reach and running respective free communities there, I think that is also a sensible option.
Yeah, I mean, we use Discord, I think, because our community is there and knows how to use that system. We did try to use Circle, actually, but we felt like we were always kind of trying to drag people over as opposed to it just be a natural app on your phone.
I think it probably fits your mission, to be honest. You could have perhaps a higher level of average engagement per member with a smaller group on Circle, but you're going for the big impact, so it makes sense that you want to create something perhaps more scalable.
Interesting, yeah. What do you think about maintaining a community? I mean, you mentioned burnout earlier. I think that's something to talk about, actually, because you don't want people to burn out trying to look after their community, and I have seen that happen for a few people. But what's your tips on managing and maintaining a community?
I think it's a balancing act. I actually did a live workshop for our community members earlier today, and I was teaching a new acronym that I've made up called COMA. It's not a very nice sounding acronym, but COMA.
I wonder if we can guess what that is. I wonder if anyone can actually guess what it is. Anyone in the comments?
Well, have you got a guess about any of those letters, Simon?
Calm, open, mission, awareness, or something like that, Probably none of those.
Awareness was close. So this is actually putting the main tasks of running a community into buckets. So it's easier to kind of think about them and keep them organized. So C is content. This is creating the materials, the resources, the events, creating all that stuff that your community get to enjoy. O is for operations. That is the behind the scenes processes, the tech stack, the automation, setting up the application flows, all of this kind of stuff that ensures things run smoothly. M is for management and events. So that is responding to posts, connecting members, onboarding members, basically all the FaceTime that you get with your community members. And A is acquisition. How are you going to find members to join your community and have that steady influx of new members to offset churn and ensure that you grow? And so to your question of how do you maintain a community, I think it's about getting the right balance of all these things. And you have to, because if you completely drop the ball on really any one of them, you're going to struggle, right? If you're incredibly inefficient because operationally you're a mess, you're going to hit a ceiling and not scale. If your acquisition's not working, again, you're not going to grow. If your content's not compelling, people are not going to enjoy the community and perhaps they're going to churn. And if you don't manage people correctly, you could get a terrible culture in the community. People might not enjoy the experience and it just becomes like the Wild West out there.
Interesting. I made notes. That feels like a T-shirt right there.
Coma.
Community coma.
When I taught my members this, they're like, I like that because I feel like if I get it wrong, I'm going to end up in a coma or burnt out or something.
Or your community will. That's fascinating. It's great stuff. And so I saw a post in the community group that I'm a member of, your community group I'm a member of, that I really liked the other day, which was basically, don't necessarily go in and answer all the questions yourself as the community manager, and let the community answer some of the questions, and it was really fascinating to me because when I saw that message, that tip from you, there was lots of questions in my community that I was about to answer all of them, and it was amazing to me. I didn't do it; I resisted, and watching the community answer it, frankly, better than me.
That's
And
it, right?
a big shout out to quite a lot of people in the audience right now, Roders and AJ, Alex, Oscar. People in the community that went and gave these answers that were very thorough and very useful. And I actually, first of all, I want to say thank you for that tip. And secondly, what other, nuggets of gold like that have you got? What's the best strategy to build, I guess, audience engagement and allow the community to to engage? Because that was like gold. I really, again, thank you. But what's your view on this?
I'm so glad to hear that, first of all. And it really works, right? Because I'm the same as you. I'm a natural helper. All I want to do is serve my members and help my audience and so on. So the same as you, I see a question, 10 seconds later, I want to jump in and give the most thorough, robust, comprehensive answer I possibly can. But what that does is other members look at it and say, well, I've got nothing to add, right? It's already been addressed. And so by staying quiet, I've started to invoke this rule of leave it 24 hours. And if it still has no answers, then I can jump in. And what normally happens is, same as you, other members jump in. And not only are their perspectives often better, but it's the variety of perspectives, because that's community, right? This is not group coaching. This is not sign up and listen to Simon or sign up and listen to Tom. It's the power of the collective. It is 2 heads are better than one, or 200 heads are definitely better than one. And I think, these different angles that people come at a problem from are just incredibly fascinating. And it really is speaking to the power of the collective, what we're talking about. I think in terms of engagement, probably my biggest hack, my biggest tactic would be turning private into public. This is what seems to work the best for me and everyone that I try and share this with. So if you just sit back and expect people to engage, most won't. If you reach out to someone one-on-one, have a conversation and say, hey, what are you struggling with right now? What are you working on? How are things going? More often than not, they won't just ghost you. They will tell you. And they might say, it's going well, but I'm kind of struggling with this. And then the trick is you say, okay, I would love to help with that. And I think I've got a great answer to help you. But do you mind posting that as a question in the main public community? That way you can get help, not just from me, but from your fellow members. And in our conversation, giving you help, it's also going to help other members too, who may be going through something similar. That's been gold for me.
You've just reminded me. I had 9 DMs today in my Instagram asking questions, and I answered them all with a voice note, which was I thought I was being clever, because that's I've got back to people, and the voice note was a good hack for me. But I should have got them to come onto the community and ask the questions, because some of the questions were really good questions that a lot of other people in the community might not have thought to ask.
You should, and I actually like the friction of that, because you're not trying to sell them anything, and it's kind of like a filter, right? It's like, well, if you can't be bothered to sign up for a free community and get help from me, and you're an accomplished entrepreneur, your time really has value. If they can't be bothered to sign up in 30 seconds and post it there, they're not serious about wanting help.
You just reminded me of something there. Actually, I made me think of a very important. I'm replying to those messages every day on different channels, and I guess part of me resists doing it, because, like you say, I don't want it to seem like a funnel. Like, I'll answer that if you go into my community.
But a funnel for what? For your free community that's helping people at scale.
Exactly, yeah. But sometimes it does feel like that, doesn't it? It feels like, we'll just jump through this one more hoop and then I'll answer your question. And but I think
I get it, yeah.
But it's it's the wrong mindset I've got there, to be honest. I think it's just what I feel is, once they're in my community, or anyone listening perhaps who's got a community, if your community is going to bring value, actually them going across and answering the question in public is going to give them, like you said, a variety of answers, not just mine. Mine might be wrong, for that matter, because I've got my own view. Doesn't mean I'm right. And so it could be useful to have other people's view. And I would say actually on Discord, one of the weaknesses is you can't do voice very easily to people. also, what I do like about Instagram is I can literally see the question and instantly reply. I do find I have to type it out on Discord, but the value is that the community itself can also help. So yeah, a great point, which I've made a note for myself. I'm learning a lot in
Yeah.
this webinar. So
You
thank
can
you.
you can also do it through lives and this kind of thing and events. So, for example, my friend Christo, he has a very big following and he gets questions every day, and it is unscalable and unrealistic for him to help every single person one on one. So he's got a bit of a like short coded response that basically says, "Here's your two options. You can either book me for a consultation, but it's like 1,500 quid an hour, or if you want some help for free, I host Twitter Spaces on these days at these times, and if you join, I'll invite you up on stage and I'll help you for free." So again, it puts the onus on the person, and what happens invariably is 99% of people don't bother, which is crazy because you've just had someone offer their time for free. All you have to do is show up. But for the people that do, they can get the help for free. They participate in an event where the answer will help them, but also hundreds of others.
Mm.
And I don't want to rant on this too much, but it is crazy to me that people don't seek that help for free. Like, can you imagine if social media didn't exist in real life? If some of the biggest entrepreneurs in your industry said, "Hey, I'll give you my time and help you for free. You just have to come by my office at this time." And you're like, "Nah, I won't bother." Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, there's lots of reasons sometimes where people don't, isn't there? I think, but it is amazing to me too. We do these webinars every week now, and I think about, for example, yourself, just how much knowledge you have, and how hard it is to even get a meeting with you because you're so busy. And so yeah, but it's always surprising to me when people don't take advantage of it. But it is also very heartening when people do, and people
And
see
double
see
down on those people,
yeah,
right?
exactly, and you can't control the people that don't turn up, right? So, but it is fascinating. It's an interesting psychology too, and that's when like, the people that say, "Oh, free has no value," win the argument because they say, "Well, it was because it was free." But frankly, in my past career, I have run paid events where people don't turn up as well. So, I think it's just sometimes the way life is, isn't it?
I know life can get in the way, though. I want to be empathetic to that as well.
No, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We did a PR event with Andrew Block, who basically does all the PR for The Apprentice and is Lord Sugar's kind of PR guru. Literally, he charges about £10,000 an hour, and we did an event with him. We had 460 people sign up, and then that night it was sunny
Oh
outside.
no.
So 112 people turned up, out of the huge number we had originally sign up, and it was simply because it was sunny, So people
Mm.
probably thought, "Oh, I'll get a suntan. That's better than ten
Yeah, I
thousand
could get
pounds
my career on the right path, but I
later
could also
after
get
I've got
that
a
glow.
suntan." In
Yeah,
fairness, to
can't
anyone
blame them.
listening to this on YouTube later, it doesn't the sun doesn't shine in England very often, so maybe there's a reason for it.
Evidenced by my incredibly pale face right now, so I
Yeah,
might take the
me
sun as
too.
well.
Me too. I've got a very bright light on me to try and help. But look, one more question from a community that asked these questions before we actually go to the actual community, and answer any questions anybody has. So if anybody wants to come up on stage in a minute on the Discord community, put up your hand now. I'll bring it up on stage in a minute. Make sure the technical stuff's working. Put up your hand now. And then if you want to come up and talk about what you're trying to get from our community, the Purposeful People community, this community, entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, I'd love you to put up your hand and come and tell me and Tom, and I'd just love to have Tom hear what you think about this community, and please come up and all say the same thing so Tom doesn't think we've got a displaced community. No pressure. So one last question for you, Tom. I guess this is a subject very close to my heart, as you know, but I wanted to understand how you make sure of it from a community perspective, and that is purpose, the purpose of the community, the goal of the community. How important is it? I think I know what you're going to say there, but more importantly, how do you perhaps determine what that is?
That's a huge question, to be honest. It's very important. So I think too many people leap in without that clarity, without the foundations. I think determining purpose needs to be done as a proper exercise. Again, it kind of speaks to that leaping in. I think a lot of people just have an idea or expect that lightning bolt moment and go, yeah, I guess that's my purpose. Let's get going. And actually, I think it works to sit and map it out properly, right? To workshop it, to plan it like you would with any other big project or strategy. And what could be bigger than your purpose? Again, I feel like people just feel like it's something that lives within them, and maybe it does, but actually getting it out on paper, speccing it out, detailing it, figuring out what aspects resonate with you and which don't. And I think to an extent as well, it's kind of meeting the market where they are or where they're going. So sometimes we can have a purpose that feels really true to us and really right, but it kind of falls on deaf ears. And often I'll refer to it as tweaking the dials. But often you'll just tweak it a little bit and suddenly you feel like you get, in this case, community market fit or product market fit or mission purpose market fit, whatever it might be. Just tweaking it a little bit or coming at it from a slightly different angle, it's still going to remain true to your values and your purpose, but that little tweak is going to be what ultimately gives it traction. But yeah, personally, I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all framework of like, if you do these 10 steps, you're going to have a purpose at the end of it. I would just say do your due diligence and, again, pay attention to the market fit. I hate to speak in terms of businessy terms, in terms of something that is so, important and kind of ephemeral and holistic, but I'm also practical with this stuff. And I've seen a lot of people that kind of rant about their purpose and no one gives a crap. And I think if you can get the sweet spot of both, you're winning.
Just out of interest,
what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, this is a deep subject, as you say. I find purpose can come over time, and your people will say your purpose doesn't change. I think that's not true. I when I was younger, I was a struggling entrepreneur and found it really hard. It's only later in life I realised that my purpose now is to go and help that younger me, but I didn't know that when I was younger. I didn't have the experience either to go back and do that. So sometimes I think people want purpose in their 20s, and some people have got that. Greta Thunberg clearly got her purpose young, but I think not everybody's got that ability to find it young, right? So I don't know. I think the other thing is how you execute your purpose. Like my purpose is to help people start and grow a business for free. And right now I'm doing that, through YouTube, for TikTok, for Instagram. But eventually I want to build an entrepreneur bank, a bank for entrepreneurs. I want to build an entrepreneur house, a place where people can stay for free. So these are products that I'm going, so purpose and delivery of purpose can have different things. Do I want to be the owner of a bank? Not really. Do I crave the power of being a financial institution? Definitely not. But do I think that tool is required to help people, for example, get micro funding to start a business? Yes, because there's none of it out there to help people. So it's an interesting one though. It is an interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think you're kind of speaking just to the execution of trying stuff, having patience, deploying time against it. And what I often notice with purpose is that your previous experiences will actually inform what your purpose ends up becoming, but you can only connect the dots retrospectively. So what I mean by that is over the years, I've had all kinds of stuff that now informs the work I do today. It's the communities that I ran for fun as a teenager that I had no idea if that would, be what I did later in life, but they've been a tremendous foundation for what I'm doing now. It was the silly videos that I made with friends, which now allow me to, have some level of creative aptitude, making content. It was the podcasts I did for years so that now I feel comfortable speaking on these things. All of these things kind of converge. And at the time, you don't really know where you're going. But as you start to lean into clarity on your purpose, you're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of all been leading here the whole time. But you only realize it. And I think the best visual I've ever seen of this was a previous mentor of mine. And he said people expect it to go like this. It goes in a straight line from point A to point B. And then he drew this giant spiral and said, actually, it's more like this. You slowly hone in on it and you get closer and closer, but it takes bloody ages and it ends up being a really long line to get there because it's never a direct line. It doesn't work like that.
That's so true. The other thing, I could talk about this subject forever. I think we'll move over in a minute to people's questions on Discord. So please put up your hands if you have any questions for Tom. But one thing I'd say about this, Tom, and I don't know how you feel about this, is if you're not sure what your purpose is, you can hang out with people that have purpose because it's quite infectious actually. And I've been involved in people who have a purpose. I fall in love with their purpose, and that's driven me to learn something that eventually I can use for my purpose. So, I think if you haven't yet discovered what your purpose is, perhaps don't build a community unless that community is about finding your purpose. Could be interesting, but
or just build one and don't weigh your whole, life's hopes and dreams in that level of pressure. I actually think, much like starting companies, you're not trying to build the greatest company of your life with the first company you start. You're just trying to learn the ropes, and if it fails, that's fine. I had so many failed communities growing up.
Yeah.
It's all part of the process.
I totally agree. I was going to start getting controversial then and say I think Mark Zuckerberg, if he'd actually let Facebook fail, would probably have a better company today. The fact that it didn't fail is probably why they've got trouble. You need that experience of failure to understand how, in his case, important community is. And when you start not looking after that community properly, the trouble you end up in. But unfortunately, it's so well funded, it pushed through the pain of the community not being served. But anyway, politics aside, before we get blocked on YouTube, look, I wanted to move over to Discord and now answer the questions that maybe some of the community have got there. So I don't know if you need to shut this computer down and move over, or you could do it on a separate computer. But I might end the recording here, and we'll move over to Discord if that's good for you.
Yeah, and if I take a minute or two, it's because I'm inept technically. So I will be over there, rest assured, and otherwise I'll call your mobile to let you know, but it should be fine.
All right. Okay, everybody.
Cool.
Thanks for listening, and please subscribe wherever you're listening to this to. And if you want to learn more about what Tom does, his links are below. And thank you so much for listening. And please do join the Discord community, Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. Again, link below, and you can be asking Tom these questions yourself. See you soon. Thanks for listening.
See you in a sec.